Hey guys, I'm back for this month's Catalyst video. I'm sorry that I haven't been producing much content at the moment. I've been working at my property in London and this has been taking up a majority of my time. But I really wanted to get this Catalyst video out for you guys because it's been an interesting month and we've got an interesting month ahead. So without further ado, let's look into the catalysts. So I'm going to take a look at the previous catalysts to see what happened last month and in April. So we can see here that ImmunityBio had a big month this month. It started off here by them announcing that they've made the BLA submission for papillary bladder cancer. This is a really important indication because this is going to open up a large section of the bladder cancer market. If they are successful in the submission, then we should see a big uptick in the revenues. And on top of that, they had their Investors Day where they gave us lots of information about their pipeline. But perhaps best of all, they gave us a sneak preview of their Q1 revenues for Anktiva. Now if I click into ImmunityBio here, I can go to their revenue streams and then click into Anktiva. So this is a graph for the revenues of Anktiva. And we can see here that it's had a significant uptick in this quarter. Now this is great to see. We can see that there's been around a $9 million growth in the last quarter alone. This is after they successfully received a J-code for Anktiva. If they can maintain $9 million per quarter, then that's $160 million a year growth. It's still going to be many years before they cover their costs and pay off their debt. But not only am I hoping that this growth will continue, I'm also hoping they're going to be able to broaden out this indication and add other indications in the future. I really think that the future is going to be bright for ImmunityBio, so if you haven't checked them out already, I recommend that you do. I've already done a brief overview video which I recommend that you check out. So going back to the other catalysts, we can see here that just yesterday, Verona had its Q1 2025 ER. And again, we can go in here and we can take a look at the revenue streams out of there. And we can see that this is just a cracking line of growth. It looks straight at first glance, but if we take a look at the numbers, we've got around 5.5 million in the first quarter. And then it jumps up about 31 million. And this quarter it's jumped up around 36 million. So the growth is accelerating. But to be honest, it doesn't need to. At this rate, it's around $560 million growth per year. They've already mentioned before that they expect that this could be a $5 billion per year product. And if they only maintain growth as it is, then they're already going to exceed that. Now, I did want to show you the discounted cash flow for this company. So this is just a simplified discounted cash flow. We can see here that I've applied a 10% discount each year. So the assumptions that I've made is that this year they can make $200 million net profit. And then next year they'll be able to increase that by $450 million. And they'll be able to do that every year up until 2034. However, this would cap out at the $5 billion peak sales and will have a 70% profit margin. We can see here that they would pull in $21 billion over this time period, and that would put the discounted value of this company at around $12 billion. Now, given current growth and expectations that the market will grow in this time period, this could be a conservative estimate, but it still shows at the $6 billion valuation today that this stock looks undervalued. The path ahead for Verona looks pretty clear. Nothing is without its risks, of course, but I do like the look of this for steady, lower risk growth. Okay, so if I head back to the catalysts, I believe that concludes the catalyst for last month, and that is the case. So for this month upcoming, we still have the United Kingdom approval for Iovance and the Canadian approval as well. These could be any time between now and the next few months. But what we do have is a list of Q1 2025 ER calls coming up. First in the list is Ardelyx, which is set for the 1st of May. This is going to be a really big earnings call for Ardelyx. That's because it will be the first quarter where it takes its hit from exposure going into the bundle. We're going to see a significant decline in revenue this quarter, but it's going to be really important how much of a decline that is. We can see that over the last year it's taken a real pounding in the stock price. It's falling from a high of around $10 to $11 all the way down to $4 at one point. It's currently bounced up a bit pre-earnings, but everything is to play for in this earnings call. Personally, I think the reduction in the stock price has been overblown. IBRX is growing really fast and it looks like it's going to exceed its guided peak sales of $1 billion. On top of that, it still looks like exposure is going to be able to sell to those non-Medicare customers and bring in at least the guided $750,000. Again, I want to show you quickly the DCF Ardelyx. The assumptions that I've made here is that they're going to lose around $65 million this year. This is mostly due to costs related to them doubling their sales team and also going into marketing and advertising channels. However, next year I hope to see them increase their gross profit by $225 million, and for them to do that every year until product expiry. I've also capped this around the $1.75 million peak sales and added in a gross margin, bringing it to a cap of $1.45 billion. This means that in this time period, they should bring in around $7.2 billion, and they should have a discounted cash flow value of $3.9 billion. Now that's not bad for a company currently valued at only $1.3 billion. Not only that, but the company is already talking about looking for a new molecule, and there's a chance that they could resolve the CMS bundling issue. I do think that there's definitely still quite a bit of room for this company to grow, although it's not going to reach the heights that I once wished it would. Another thing I'd like to point out is this post by Verona. I hope I said that correctly. And this is a very interesting link between Tenopur and oncology. So taking a look at this article, it has a mind-bendingly complicated abstract. But from what I understand, this is actually a different mechanism to what we know Tenopur for. So at the moment we know Tenopur for blocking the absorption of phosphates. However, here they're talking about it blocking major Volt protein, or MVP as it's referred to. And by suppressing this protein, it can stop cancer's resistance to sorafenib. This is certainly very interesting and positive news for Ardelyx. However, as Donkey Kong Returns noted, this is incredibly early days, and we are many steps away from this being put into any type of clinical trials, or even making its way to commercialization. It is, however, possible that the progression of this news could be a boost for the stock. So this is certainly very welcome, and I hope it does progress with a positive note. So if we go into Iovance, look at their revenue streams and TAGV, we can see here, you see Proleukin as well. Yep. So we can see here that TAGV had a really good start here, and then it really leveled off. They said that this was just a supply issue, and they've put out a guidance this year of around $470 million. And they also believe that they can have over $2 billion peak sales worldwide. So hopefully in this coming quarter, we're going to see that growth accelerate again. The other thing I'm really looking forward to on this earnings call is that other indications. Any positive news on these trials could really see an uptick in the stock price. I do think the key to Iovance's success is in its other pipeline products. I think a lot of the success of its current indication has already been baked in. But if they could get other indications like non-small cell lung cancer, then this company could be really undervalued. However, let's not forget there is a lot of competition in this area. And in fact, Anchiva is targeting the same indication. So let's keep a close eye on this to see how it plays out. Okay, so next in the catalysts is the ImmunityBio Q1 ER. Again, another estimate for the 8th of May. To be honest, I'm not expecting too much from this ER. They just had their Investors Day. We found out how much they're expecting to be making this quarter. I expect they've also divulged most of the information about their clinical trials. So I'd be surprised if we heard anything new in this ER. But you never know. So the next one is the Urogen Q1 ER. This is estimated for the 12th of May. Again, I don't think this is going to be very interesting. But I would like to mention again that the PDUFA date is coming up very close now. It's the 13th of June for Urogen. And I do think that Urogen is going to have a positive year this year. They did recently have 5 press releases over the last weekend, with good news about their clinical trials. Although there wasn't anything too major in these press releases, all of them were good news and the stock price saw a significant boost. Here we have that the Jelmyto gave a 4-year duration response. Here it says that UGN 102 did not adversely affect the quality of life of its patients. Here it's talking about positive duration response for UGN 102. And again the duration response for UGN 102 in a different trial. And finally it talks about its UGN 301 having encouraging results. So as I say, nothing major in any of these, but all good news for the company. Now one thing I want to say about this company is that I do think it will have a good year if UGN 102 gets approved. And I also think there's a good probability of that. However, it does have a couple of competitors in the space. The first is the J&J product, and the other one is again Anchiva. The J&J product I actually think is a better approach because the patients don't have to keep coming back to the clinic. And Anchiva, if it gets its indications expanded, then it could mean that there's no need for surgical intervention at all. So I think the approval of UGN 102 will make it a good year for Urogen, but there is high risk in its future. So next we have the Capricor Q1 ER coming up as well. Now Capricor has had a really rough month this month with the tariffs. It shot down not only below 10, but actually made it to $8, and it's since rebounded all the way back up to $13. I couldn't find any news on why this movement was so extreme, but I really wish that I had purchased some shares when it got down to $8. Unfortunately, because some of my stocks are on leverage, I was feeling the pain at this point, and I certainly had no spare money to do that. But if I had it, it would have been a move that I would have made. However, again with Capricor, I feel like we are just waiting now for that PDUFA date to come. Okay, so that actually brings me to the end of the catalysts I have for this coming month. If you think that I've missed any, then please let me know. I'm really keen on the news about these stocks, and I'd love to add it into Ticker Taco. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.